Today we're talking about something that many of us wrestle with, hearing God's voice clearly. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt unsure whether the thoughts running through your mind were from God or just your own desires and worries? It can be difficult to discern God's voice in the midst of life's noise and our own thoughts. In John 10, verse 27, Jesus says, "My sheep listen to my voice. I know them and they follow me." This verse reminds us that God is speaking to us. He knows us intimately and desires to lead us. But the question is, how do we distinguish His voice from all the other voices, especially our own? This is a common struggle, and it's understandable. The world is full of noise, and so are our minds. Sometimes it feels like every decision is clouded by confusion, doubt, and the pressure to choose the right path. We want to make the right decisions, but sometimes it's hard to know if the thoughts we're hearing are truly from God, or just our own desires, our fears, or our worries. And when we don't feel sure, it can leave us paralyzed or anxious about making the wrong choice. The negative consequence of not clearly hearing God's voice is that we risk acting on personal desires or emotions rather than God's guidance. When we don't discern His voice, we might end up making decisions that aren't aligned with His purpose for us. This can lead to frustration, confusion, and a sense of disconnection from His will. So, how can we distinguish God's voice from our own? First, let's recognize that God speaks in different ways. Sometimes His voice comes through a quiet whisper, through scripture, through prayer, or through the counsel of others. He speaks in a way that aligns with His word and brings peace to our hearts. One key way to distinguish God's voice is by knowing Him more intimately. Just like any relationship, the more time you spend with someone, the more you recognize their voice. The same is true with God. The more you spend time in prayer, reading His word, and listening for His still small voice, the clearer it will become. When you feel confused or unsure, ask yourself, does this thought or feeling align with God's character? His voice will always lead you in a direction of love, peace, and righteousness. It will never contradict His word or lead you into sin or selfish desires. God's guidance is always for your good and His glory. Another way to discern His voice is through peace. God often speaks through the peace He gives us when we're aligned with His will. When you're faced with a decision, take time to wait and listen for that peace. If you feel unsettled or anxious, it might be a sign to wait and seek further clarity. When it's God's will, there will be a sense of peace that passes all understanding. Lastly, seek counsel from others. God often speaks through the wisdom of others who are walking with Him. If you're unsure about a decision, talk to a mentor, pastor, or a trusted friend who can help you hear God's voice more clearly. God never calls us to make decisions in isolation. I want to encourage you today. God is speaking to you. You don't have to live in confusion or doubt. Take time to listen, get to know His voice, and trust that He will guide you every step of the way. When you hear His voice clearly, you'll have peace in your decisions and confidence in His purpose for your life. Are you ready to hear God's voice more clearly in your life? Well, I've got a mini course that helps you discover and live out your God-given purpose with clarity and confidence. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, then click the button below this page to find out more. Be blessed, and remember, you are only one revelation away.